Peter Chang here, and welcome to part 14 of our SCX-60 CF build. And if you remember, in part 13 we ran into a snag with the stock front bumper for the SC10 into the Speedy Dad's big bore shock towers. And in this case we're going to go ahead and try the RPM front bumpers for the SC10. And the RPM front bumper is actually made of flexible plastics. Here we see the front bumper. Here is the chassis plate. And also it's flexible plastic. It's made of these blend of nylon flexible plastics. And also here's also the other component to the front bumper. And we'll be examining a few different ways that we could possibly be building this front bumper out. One thing I love about RPM products is that we always see this little note that says who it's packaged by. Instructions really aren't that great. There's no pictures, it's just a lot of text. You have to do a lot of thinking as you do the install. It's kind of, as opposed to, you know, like some of the other manuals where it's like they show you a picture and then you just kind of match everything up to the picture, kind of like a Lego block instructions. RPM instructions are very detailed, but there's no images in there, so you just have to pretty much read through everything once and then go back and do the install. I'm really digging this RPM chassis plate because it's just so well built. It's so solid and heavy. So here is the stock SC10 front bumper. I'm just going to go ahead and remove this, and I won't be needing this one anymore here. Once again, nothing wrong with the stock SC10 front bumper, except that when I'm using a customized part, it just doesn't quite line up flush. I talked to some guys at the local track. Some guys suggested using maybe like some more things like spacers, but it just got all too complex, so I'm going to go ahead and try something that doesn't need that front loop to the shock tower. I have seen a lot of images on the internet where people just have mounted just the bottom plate of the RPM front bumper, and pretty much that's basically it. They just mount the front plate on there. I'm just going to go ahead and mount this front plate on here to see how that would work. It's just a whole different thing when you see a picture and then when you try to do this yourself. So notice on that X-Factory component, it's just the two screws there. I'm just going to pull out this. So actually there's going to be like 4 screws that hold the front bumper into that nose piece. So pretty much it's just have to be a little bit patient, and then it does require some experimentation. I'm doing all the experimenting here, so hopefully you guys could make your best choices. I'm just going to make every possible mistake building my X-Factory SCX-60 CF. And hopefully you guys don't make the same mistakes I do. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove this final screw here. And it's really, I've screwed this in way too tightly because as I was building this, I was thinking like, hey, the stock bumper is going to work. So I didn't quite envision that. So you do run in like a couple of snags in there as you're building out your X-Factory SCX-60 CF kit, but it's just if you're going to go ahead and do customized things and conversions and modifications to everything, you're just bound to you know, have something mundane as a front bumper be the difficult part or the snag in your build. But I'm willing to deal with that as a snag. It's not the biggest deal breaker ever, but it's kind of frustrating nonetheless. But just so you know, one idea would be to screw this in and just call this thing done. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm thinking it's not a bad approach really, because if you're thinking about if you're going to be racing, it certainly doesn't have a lot of weight. You're just screwing in this kind of mini bumper, or actually RPM does make a mini bumper for the SC10. I'm not sure if it actually would fit on this conversion kit, but if you do try the RPM mini bumper, please let us know in the comments below. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and finish screwing this thing in and just seeing how this would look. I guess my initial gut reaction is going to be that this. I guess I'm not 100% happy with this type of build with it. And I have seen pictures of this on the internet, just actually tons and tons of images with just this RPM front bumper on there, without all the additional front bumper goodness to it. I guess one thought is that it does feel a little flimsy here. I feel like I'm stressing out the X-Factory nose piece there. I might be able to survive like a light impact shock, but I'm not that skilled of a driver to get away with that necessarily. So I do need something that that could survive a higher degree of impact. So just thinking about that whole ordeal. That's probably not the world's greatest idea, but it does look pretty good just by itself on there. It looks, if looks could tell you anything, it does look like it could work, that it is indeed functional. However, I'm just thinking if somebody hits you from the front, or if you're just bashing around with friends, that is not going to work out too great. Also, if you're not bashing around with friends and just racing, it just feels like your front of your car might need more protection, unless you're a really good driver and you hardly ever crash into anything. It's almost also kind of hook-like too, because like if you were to go too fast and then hit somebody, bump somebody, rear of someone's RC car, it looks like you could almost hook that RC car together too with that bumper. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put on this chassis plate there, and doing it for two reasons. Because I want the bumper by itself just felt too flimsy for me. I'm not that good of a driver. If I was a better driver and I wasn't hitting a lot of things, I probably might have gone that approach. What was great about that particular approach is that there's less pieces, so then the overall weight of the car is going to be much lighter. But I guess, like, because I'm building everything from scratch, I just want to protect everything. This seems like the best way of doing so. And also, when I install this this chassis plate, it also protects the bottom carbon fiber components. X-Factory does plan on selling this chassis for $80 at some point in time, so I don't envision myself paying $80, or I probably would pay $80, but I'm just not really thrilled about paying $80 to replace the chassis if it got too warped, or, well, it's like carbon fiber, so it doesn't really warp, but too damaged. So it would not be fun paying $80 to replace the chassis every time the chassis gets totally damaged. So just so you're aware. So just taking my time trying to get everything screwed in through the carbon fiber. It's really tricky, actually, when you're trying to thread something through carbon fiber. It's really has a little different property. You think I'd be used to it by now, but I still find myself kind of amazed that sometimes carbon fiber could thread in pretty easily and everything is nice and tight. Other times carbon fiber just doesn't like the size of your screw, and you're kind of fighting with threading things through carbon fiber. In this case, it seems relatively trouble-free. I'm using the same screws that I did with the mini bumper that I'm now securing with this chassis plate. So essentially, all this stuff just screws right into the X-Factory nose piece. Pretty heavy stuff. Thinking about it, like everything is attaching through the nose piece. So I'm kind of glad that that this RPM component is giving like a wider range of distribution for any kind of impacts. It's just by using this chassis plate, you actually have a larger surface area to work with in the event of a collision with another RC car or an inanimate object like a wall. So just so you're aware that I am happy with the solution. It's just because this chassis plate protects the carbon fiber chassis, and also because of the larger surface area, any impacts get a little bit more minimalized, and it protects the sensitive electronics sitting on the RC car. I'm screwing everything in with a star pattern. Generally, when I see people screw in things, they put in one screw and then they screw the next screw just side by side, and then when they finish screwing in stuff, especially something that's not necessarily in the circle but close to a circle, everything gets warped. So circular parts or rectangular parts where things have to fit in exactly precisely, they do get warped. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish up this the screw here. So anyways, the greatest thing with the star pattern is that you maintain the relative strength of each item in there. And I made a mistake. You see, I actually had to remove all those screws because now I know how to actually thread in all the screws there, because if I thread in the screws, I can't get the front bumper on there. So you get to see me do all these little rookie mistakes as I'm building. Actually, it's getting pretty late, so in a sense, my mind just kind of shuts down and goes on autopilot after a certain hour. But just so you know, pretty much just stick with that star pattern, and you're gonna do just fine. So pretty much you're watching everything happen in real time, and it just does take a little while to put this piece on. And it's kind of hard. It's just because of the flexible plastic nature. So just go ahead and threading this through, and I'm just making sure that this fits on nice and tight. And then I'm just going to go ahead and just give this another turn to make sure that everything is fitting. Just kind of giving everything a little tug to make sure it's secure. And just going to, I keep dropping my screwdriver here. So pretty much I'm just going to go back and just thread in this top bolt here. And also just another thing you should know, that when you're working on the bottom of your RC car, you should always have a flathead screw. So it's just some kind of flathead screw. If you're using like a cap head screw, unless the instructions say to use cap head, you should be using some kind of flathead screw. There we go. I don't have the flathead screw for this size, so just using the hex Allen wrench that came with my RTR, and you can see it kind of feels like torture after using all the awesome nut drivers by Dynamite and Hoodie, so, and also Weehaw as well. So it feels like a step backwards, but I just don't have this size of a hex wrench, so I'm just going ahead with the one from my stock RTR. And I would highly suggest, like, if you're still running stock tools, you should actually get those replaced, because after a while it just wears out, and it's really hard in your hands, and you just need a little bit better of a tool. So there we have it. We have the front bumper on here, the SC10 RPM's SC10 bumper on my SCX-60 CF. And the great thing with the RPM type bumpers is that it doesn't require a front loop back into the shock tower. The bottom chassis plate has a large enough surface area that it dissipates any kind of shocks all the way across the whole bottom of the chassis. So it's not something that you'd have to worry about. And pretty much to complete this, I just have to screw in 2 nuts into this top part here, and it's just I'm just going to go ahead and do this to make everything more secure. Not a fan of these 2 nuts here because they're a little bit too big, but just not going to argue with that right now. I'm just going to go ahead and screw it in to see how it feels. If it feels a little bit too heavy, I might pull it out and find something thinner. But just for now, just to test it out to see if this idea would work. So right now I'm just using my Dynamite nut driver to get that in. And you can tell it's a Dynamite nut driver because just the thickness of all the parts. I've been using the Dynamite stuff for a little while now, and it's I can just tell you while Dynamites are great, they do feel a little bit crude in your hand. It's not as refined as say a Weehaw or a Hoodie nut driver. But what's really compelling about Dynamite, though, is just the really low prices. So that is the compelling component. I have the 2 nuts in here. Just going to give it one final spin to make sure everything's nice and tight, and checking that out, and also checking out the RPM front bumper for the SC10, and just making sure that everything is a-okay. Well, thanks for watching this step. And remember, everything matters.